Hello, and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about idle champions in Dungeons and Dragons. And with me this week is the amazing Tanya DePass.
Hello, Trevor. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. It is a not freezing day in Chicago in January, which also concerns me because Chicago in January is usually really cold and snowy. So,
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, and Christmas was 75. Nothing
oh,
wrong with that whatsoever. No concerns.
no, I mean, California, at least that makes sense.
It does, but it would have been nice if it was like anywhere near winter. But Tanya, if there's folks that are here in the chat that don't know who are you for those fine folks who may not know?
I'm an internet ne'er-do-well, according to some, but most
I love that title.
I'm full of my oats today, as our older folks would say. But to be a little serious, I am a content creator, I'm a streamer. Obviously, I was on Black Dice Society. I'm also on Rivals of Waterdeep, which is entering its 15th season in a couple weeks. Making my own TTRPG into the Motherlands. I do mini painting. I make dice for fun, not for profit. Strong distinction. Do a little bit of everything. I basically just try to cause mayhem and also do a kindness when I can. As friends in the chat will know, I'm often involved in kindness wars. So so friends randomly will get packages, especially if they express a need for something and they won't buy it for themselves.
Well, I will add on to that. Tanya is just a great all-around person.
I'm
And
full of shenanigans.
yes. I do want to mention at the top of the show here, we are live. So if you have any questions throughout the episode, you can put them into chat with question, and then your question. Our awesome mods, Mars and Sean, will grab them and put them in a little text doc that we will get to at the end of the episode. But before we do that, oh, hey, there's a B. Dave Walters in the chat. Oh my
What?
gosh.
We've been graced with a B-Dave?
Wow. Yeah.
We've been graced with greatness.
This
Hello.
guy. Twitch chats that I can hear. Tony, I want to kick things off the way that
Hold
I always...
on. We were talking about dice right before it started. I can roll initiative for you, Dave.
Roll initiative. Let's see what it is.
All right, let's see. Against Dave, I don't know. I don't know if I get disadvantage. If I remember correctly, Fenn's bonus. So that was a 12.
Not bad. Not great, but not bad.
Not bad. But if I was playing Celeste, she has a +4 in initiative.
B. Dave got 13.
Oh, dang it. Dang. It's because he's so much taller than me.
It's true. If he leans forward, he gets everywhere first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Tony, I wanted to kick this off with the question I always love asking people, which is, how'd you get into D&D?
So funny story. I'm a big nerd, surprising no one. And I've always had a wild imagination, got to read a lot as a kid because I was that precocious child that read above the grade level. And the idea of being stuck in the sandbox of books bored me.
Mm.
And so I got into role play, got into RPGs, got into D&D. And it was great for a while, but then I have suffered the satanic panic. I survived it. So I had to do the playing D&D on the side. What are you doing? Homework. Lots of research, homework. And I've been playing off and on. I kind of fell out after 3.5. Partially because I just didn't have a regular group other than folks I played with at my day job way back when.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really like the forbidden text of 4. I never got into that. And then it's Greg Tito's fault / reason I'm back into D&D because he and I got to know each other because of other work that I do and DEI stuff. And he reached out and he's like, hey, I follow what you do with diversity inclusion. I need diverse games. Love to have you on Dragon Talk. And I've told the story before. It did not click to me until about an hour before we were going to go live that it was like the official D&D podcast.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, sure, Dragon Talk. I'll go. Oh, yeah. Sure. And it didn't click. And this is when it was still streamed and everything else. But it was Yeah, and it was Greg and Shelley. It was great.
Oh yeah.
And we talked about, and we brought up, like how I'd kind of fallen out of how I'd kind of fallen out of playing D&D because, again, back in my day, you had to gather around the table and you had paper books. Like all this digital stuff wasn't a thing. And he was like, well, 5e had just come out or was about to come out. And, we talked about it, and he showed me the iconic human, which was a dark-skinned black woman as the paladin in like actual proper armor. And I was like, sold. And I was like, wait, sold as soon as I buy these books. And he was like, I got you. And suddenly a package of books arrived. You also don't realize how heavy D&D books are.
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of them at once and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I live on the first floor. Now that's not the case. But long story short, it was Greg's, interest in, talking to me and also just seeing the steps that have been made to do better in terms of representation. And then fast forward a few months and Greg reached out again about creating Rivals of Waterdeep. And the whole conceit of it was teaching people to play D&D using 5e because, for those of us of a certain age, remember the days we needed like a calculator and graph paper.
Gotta get that THAC0 going.
Oh God, not THAC0. My soul just left my body. But you felt like you needed a math degree to play. And Rivals was born on stage June 1st, 5 years ago this year, at Stream Many Eyes, and still going, knock on wood. We've got one more season in us. And
that was 5 years ago, wasn't it?
June 1st of this year will be 5 years of Rivals.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's quite a journey there. I like that. You were there for what were you playing second edition? Back in the Satanic Panic times?
First and second, every time I see an AD&D book, part of my soul leaves my body, but it's also history.
Yep.
So, and then I branched off into other things. I have played other systems, and then I got into DMing and GMing. DM 2 seasons of a Dragon Age RPG game.
I love that game. Sorry, that's like one of my favorite systems.
So we'll have after the show, we'll have to talk.
Okay, I'm down for that.
And it was funny because the players were okay with it because I said, let me basically run a fanfic version of Thetis, and Fenris was the Inquisitor.
Yes.
And our friend the Opera Geek played, and she of the cast was the only person who had never played the video games.
Oh.
So she played a dwarven rogue, and then she decided to sass Inquisitor Fenris.
Oh my God.
Her character lived, thankfully.
I'm sure you were not pleased with this character though.
No, well, so here's the thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about DMing and stuff like that, where my DM style, now that I go back and look at that, is that I will yes and you, and Brian or Bohemian has said this, I will yes and you to death. So if she wanted to do something, it's like, sure, do it, but realize there may be consequences for your actions. But also, I don't believe in killing players, and I know Dave is in chat and is going to say something. Because I went to death rolls first in the 3rd episode of Black Knights.
Yes, you did.
So, which one of my Dragon Age players is in chat. So, I don't believe in killing players, especially for something that, if not for a bad roll of the dice, or you tried, and I feel like failure can also lead to great RP moments. And I realize that now as I've DM'd a lot more for other systems and D&D, where, especially, if you have not discussed the possibility of death and your character dying, and the DM decides, well, that was a bad roll, you die. And I'm like, wait a minute, we did not discuss this, because especially for like that game and the one long form game I was in of 3.5, I think for 3 years, I would travel across the city to my friend's place on a weekend, and we'd play for like 6 hours. And my first character died. And they were like, "Are you okay with this? Do you want to do death saves?" And I forget how death saves work in 3.5. It's been that long. but my character died. It was a bad roll. Also, I tried and death saves didn't happen, and he became Dragon Chow.
Happens, unfortunately. B Dave did answer, by the way. He said, "I don't kill players; the dice kill players."
You know what I mean, Dave. You know, don't argue semantics with me. I will call you after the show, sir. He knows I'll call him too.
Oh, he does. He does.
Yeah, like soon as we wrap. What did you say in chat?
Puts on speaker like.
Oh my god, that would blow out everyone's mic.
Well, today we're here to talk about Fenn, because
Yes.
Fenn has come to Idle Champions as of yesterday. You can unlock
Yeah.
it right now in game, and Fenn was part of the Black Dice site, and like this is I've been enjoying these Black Dice Society episodes because like I'm asking, but I know quite a bit about it because fun fact, I was the podcast editor, so I heard a lot of the show.
Yep.
But I want to ask something that I didn't know, which is how did you come up with Fenn?
So when Dave approached us about the show, and once we knew kind of like who all would be there, what, and he's like, it's the Miss, it's
Mhm.
Ravenloft, and these are not nice people. And after years of playing a paladin, who for the
Mm.
most part is good, I was like, I'm diving in. I want to be evil. For those who don't know, Fenn's alignment is chaotic evil. And I wanted to basically have that darkness, but there's still that little bit of me that can't be, well, I can be evil as a human being, but
Mhm.
also I feel like going totally like 100% in either direction can be disruptive
Yeah.
because honestly, when you think about it, and I know Dave and I have talked about this as well, as an adventuring party, the people watching the show, if you're streaming it or just even playing at a table, why are these people together?
Yeah.
And in the case of Black Dice, we're thrown together by circumstance, but nobody wants to sit there week after week and watch someone be just totally evil and despicable and disrupt everyone's plans. That's not fun for anybody. So
Mhm.
there was always that kind of tweak of she has her moments. She has the people that she does care about, much like me IRL, where I have my people. And if you do anything to one of my people, I will come for you. Versus, I'm not wandering around with a giant sword on my back. I'm not actually a D&D character, but um I wanted to get out of the comfort zone of Celeste, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what landed you on they were a Damphir Drow blood hunter. What landed you on that?
So Downfear I was curious about, especially since we can now play them.
Mhm.
And someone actually brought this up on Twitter, and I found it real interesting when I did the Ben announced tweet that I've been very hardline anti-Drow for a long time.
Hmm.
And well, it's because of how they were written
Yep.
up until 5e, that they're always evil, that they're always jet black in appearance until 5e. And there was no gray area. There was no, and not to be one of the good ones, but there
Mm.
was no there was no wiggle room to be anything but evil and a follower of Wolf up until
Mhm.
5e. And okay, that's weird that someone wrote my whole name in chat. It's on the overlay. Um and I said, okay, this is my chance to one kind of tip that on its head. Just like with other characters that I played where I wanted to kind of tip what people expected. So if they saw a drow, I didn't want them to expect just purely evil, must follow Lolth, and then have to deal with well, why would a drow be with this party?
Mm.
Because it's fantasy, it's make
Yeah.
believe, we can do what we want.
Exactly.
And I gave her kind of instead of having my parents die, or they were killed in front of me, she left to protect her parents.
Mhm.
It was, I don't know if I'd say a noble, but it was a good reason to leave home and be out in the world. And I've liked playing a blood hunter. I got to play a blood hunter Sleaze. It didn't quite work for me that well on Rivals, and I figured, okay, Miss Blood Hunter using the power of the blood can be a good or evil thing. And most of the time we see blood magic in games, it's always evil.
Mhm.
And Fenn is a dump here, so it would be a way to kind of kill her prey, but also should she need a little nibble, she could do that. And I've read the class, and it always just fascinated me.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm going down that road, I'm going down that road.
Mm-hmm. I do love the especially the updated Blood Hunter class. I did for one of the podcasts that I did, my co-host and I did that one-on-one Blood Hunter game that I think Anthony Joyce wrote,
Oh,
and
nice.
just absolutely fell in love with the class through that game. It's so much dang fun. Uh
Yeah. Well, and as B Dave will laugh at this, I realized very quickly it's great being a blood hunter, not so great when most of what you encounter does not have blood.
Yeah, no, that would cause a problem. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I
You
immediately
know,
think of the weird zombie flesh things y'all fought in the attic. Yep, no blood there.
yeah, no blood. The plant thing had no blood.
Mm.
We didn't run into a lot that had blood, and then it was like, no, we need this person. Like, never let me have fun. Miss Gusey. Dave's gonna ruin everything for me.
Dave's gonna put a bunch of asterisks into the chat. It's like, well, actually,
I know. Oh my god. He will just message me on Facebook while we're doing this. I'll see it pop up on my phone. I will ignore it until later.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask, for people who may not know, what was Fenn's arc like through the Black Dice Society?
Fenn's arc. Wow, and I need to remember. um she was basically like kind of a guard, kind of like part of the muscle for the carnival. And that's where she landed after she left her family, left the Underdark. And it went from, this is my job, the only person I care about is Isolde
Mhm.
and these people that are part of the carnival, until she met the others that became the Black Dice Society. And she really, really latched on to Desmond as a sibling, especially once we learned that he's a lycanthrope, etc. Um, and then, Brother Right, partially just because I adore Mark and DJ. So it was very easy to like their characters.
Yeah.
But that was like amongst the people she found herself with, those were like her two chosen ones. And then as Brother Uriah and Nahara got closer, she was like, okay, I'm gonna bring Nahara into the pack. It's okay. And so it became this, first it was necessity. She just wanted to get home. And then as they ran into people, ran into the caller and learned more about, especially about the storyline we wove in about Isolde and the way to free her. Her focus narrowed down to, she had to free Isolde from Nepenthe no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And she paid that price. And granted, I think it's been long enough, and Dave, tell me if you don't think it has, but the show's been off for a little bit. I have friends that still have not seen the finale.
That finale
Look,
was awesome.
watching a 3-hour show every week until like 9 or 10 at night is a lot. Being on that show is a lot. I know Eugenio has not seen all of it, and a few other friends. But she gets what she wanted. Mm-hmm. She does get to see Isolde again. But everything she did for a while was, I don't care what you all do. This is my focus. Mm-hmm. And the fight with the caller, and then, getting to kind of revisit that during our live Gen Con show, was she's going to make sure that her friends are okay. All she cared about was, making sure we got Brother Uriah back when he died, and helping Desmond through the trauma of everything that happened with his brother getting turned by Strahd and stuff like that. Spoilers if you're not caught up.
I will tell you this: you may know what happens, but you don't know how it happens, and it's wild.
Look, all I know is there was 1 week I was gone. I was in New York, and I came back, and we were talking about toe muffins, and I heard about the scene in the carriage with Desmond and Tatiana and what's his face, and I was like, and every time he said toe muffins again, my poor little Dompier soul shriveled a little bit. Because I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, why? Why are you like this? Rose.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Rose. I'm sorry. It was Rose, Tatiana, and Desmond.
Yep.
Which makes it even worse because then she felt like betrayed. It's like, you really slept with Rose? Really? don't you have taste, Desmond?
I remember editing that episode.
I
That
was not
was
there, and I think that's the one episode I have not watched because I just start laughing too much. I can't get through it because my brain just goes, no, no, I can't.
I love that. And you touched on this a little bit with what you're talking about there, but I wanted to talk about Fenn's relationship with the Black Dice Society.
Mm,
Absolutely one of those relationships that I really did love was Fenn's relationship with Brother Uriah.
mhm.
Like I like that there was backstory there and everything, and like it's two characters that, like, when I saw the poster, I wouldn't have thought like, oh yeah, no, they're friends. They're lifelong friends. They knew each other as children.
Well, and since Dave's in chatting, he can correct me because I have the worst memory. It was that Fenn randomly found him and saved him from being basically
That's
probably
right.
killed by the caller as a child. And for Fenn, it had been like 20, 25 years, and he was a child, but of course now he's an adult when
That's
and then
right.
they have that moment of, oh, that was you. I'm glad nothing killed you in the meantime. Please don't go off with strangers anymore.
uh,
So,
oh, poor
well,
Brother Uriah.
yeah, and like all the stuff we find out about Faran and Aslan Rex.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, and I don't know if Mark is lurking, but I've always liked Mark,
Mm-hmm.
as a person and enjoyed his acting and stuff like that. But to be there, even on Zoom, even though it was coming after the first couple of times, that flip between
Oh
Uriah
God.
and Aslan, or Uriah, Aslan, then Faran, and a couple times all in one episode, I was just like, oh. And I'm sure you can see it on our faces, like we knew it was coming, but it was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back here and watch the master work at his craft.
There was one episode where Mark was doing that. And after the podcast episode went out, I put out a tweet. I'm like, I just want everyone to know, I did not shorten any time between Mark doing voices. That was how fast it went.
Oh yeah. I mean, people watching it real time, especially like the post shows, because for a while, the post shows were recorded ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, they basically were recorded immediately after and then shown, like put out to patrons immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while, some were pre-recorded, and then it was very eerie how the pre-recorded lined up real well.
Yeah.
So also shout out to B Dave in the chat because that is a masterclass in DMing.
Mm-hmm.
He is goals for me as a DM.
I love that. Yeah, I big same, honestly. Like when a lot of people talk about the great DMs of D&D, B Dave needs to be in that conversation.
Yes.
Yep.
And shout out to Matt and Jasmine and Eugenio.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm gonna say to Brian Gray.
Oh yeah.
Because him co-DMing that season of Rivals was his first time DMing.
I didn't know that. I did.
Oh yes.
I don't even think he said that when I had him on the show talking about that.
Because Brian is very I mean, as we all do, we're like, you don't need to know all this about me. But if you go back and look at it, and especially like our live, so speaking of Brian and Rivals and Black Dice, there's now a connection between the two groups because of what they did during our finale at PAX Unplugged in 2021.
Mm.
But if you go back and look at the season 11 premiere, when I switch classes and I drop Blood Hunter and bring Ranger on for Solis, the conversation that we have as Tyr and Solis, and he did that off the cuff. I had no clue
Oh
until we were
wow.
done. So he could never again say he's not a good DM.
Absolutely. Honestly, the pictures from that Gen Con show with Eugenio and Brian DMing, the pictures of them just kind of like discussing things and that wicked smile them, it's some of my favorite images of just DMing in general.
Yeah, when Eugenio dropped the 12d12 damage on us and the cackle he let out, I was like, you should be so glad I like you.
I love it. Well, we're gonna transition to something else real quick, but before we do that, I did want to let folks know that we are gonna do a giveaway here in chat in a little bit. When the mods have a keyword ready, they'll be put in the chat, and you have 2 minutes to put that keyword in and enter for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice, excluding Bahamut chests, and we'll get that going in a little bit. And remember, if you have any questions for Tanya, you can put them into chat with question colon and then your question. We'll talk about them at the end of the show. But speaking of Rivals, I wanted to talk about Rivals because I wasn't hosting this show when Celeste came to the game,
Mhm.
and I love talking to people about their characters. So if I could talk to people about 2 characters in one show, I'm happy. So
Nice.
tell me about Rivals of Waterdeep.
So Rivals, like I said earlier, is a D&D 5e show that started off. Oh God, I almost said scripted. But when we started, it was to show off
Mm-hmm.
the Waterdeep book, and I'm blanking on it.
Oh,
Waterdeep
Watery Dragon
Dragon
Heist.
Heist.
Yep.
It was called Dragon Heist, and the next year when we came back, we highlighted Avernus because that book was coming out. And the whole conceit of it, despite what people seem to think, is to show that anyone can play D&D
Mm-hmm.
because we had a range of experience on the show. Some people had never played before. I had been playing a long time. Serena and Carlos had. And so the idea was to show that anyone can indeed learn to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
And, we premiered live at Too Many Eyes. We're local up until the pandemic. Had a couple, I almost said staffing, that sounds weird, cast changes. Serena left for a job in California. And it's been, I don't want to get emotional because also I put on makeup for this. It's been one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. One, because these are all my friends. These are
Mm-hmm.
all people that I enjoy getting to spend time with. And, it's an excuse, like, your gaming group is an excuse to also see your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're doing this in front of a live audience, but it's also some of the most creative energy and some of the best times I've had. Times where I've laughed and cried, and it's also made me a better role player and a better DM, spending 5 years with everyone. And the fact that I got to bring friends on that were not on the show when we had opening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that you've seen like Brian and Eugenio together on Idle Champions Presents.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost scary seeing them real time on the show, and they still are creepily in sync, even not co-DMing.
Yep.
Um, but also, and this is the part where it's hard because the point of the show wasn't to be like the flagship POC led show,
Mm-hmm.
but having people come up to us or tweet at us or be excited that there is a show with people who look like them
Yeah.
has been a great benefit because myself for a long time, other people have always felt like this was not for us, that people like us did not play D&D, did not do TTRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we get to be that beacon for other people and show them you can actually do this. And not every show needs to have massive funding, things like that. Ideally, it's great when you can get paid and you
Mm-hmm.
can have a great production. But if you find people you click with and it's great and you can build a world and it's collaborative, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people always feel like, oh, I could never do that. I could never have a show like that. Why would you think? Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can get 3, 4, 5 friends together, decide what you're going to do because it is going to sound weird because yes, I do get paid for what I do, but you can also play any TTRPG for the love of playing it
Yep.
because streaming unto itself is something where I feel like people have gotten so in the mindset of if I can't monetize, I might as well not do it. And that's not true.
Mm.
I stream on Twitch. It does not pay all my bills. It will never pay all my bills unless I have some radical shift where I suddenly get 10 times the viewer and
Yeah.
subscribers. So what I need people to understand is get out of the mindset that if you can't be the next Critical Role, you can't be the next Black Dice or
Yeah.
Dimension 20, then there's no point. Do it because you love doing it. Go out and play whatever game you want to play. And if you are enthusiastic and enjoying it and having good RP, people will know. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need $1,000 cameras. You don't need, you know, a $10,000 PC to run your stream?
Yep.
Are you all having fun? Are you playing insert whatever game you want to play? Are you enjoying it? And are you all telling a story and building on what each person brings to the table? That is the most important part.
Hell yes. No, the doing it for the love of doing it really, really resonates with me. I mean, I did so many freaking podcasts over the last few years, and I would get people asking me like, "Well, are you making money off of it?" And I'd be like, first off, weird question. Second, no, because I just like doing it, and that's how you get
Yeah.
better at doing it is just doing it.
Yeah, like I talked about in my intro, like making dice, and
Mhm.
my mods from the chat may laugh at this, but it was just something I took up during the pandemic. It was something to do with my hands, where I was not sitting in front of a computer,
Mhm.
and it was something for me to do. I had zero intent on ever selling these dice because one, I didn't know how they were going to come out. I didn't know if I'd like it. I bought
Mhm.
some resin, one mold to see if I even like doing this. And every time I would stream and like take them out of the mold and maybe paint them or whatever, ink them, it always be someone. So, what are you opening an Etsy shop? So, can I
Mhm.
buy those? And I'm like, no. It got to the point we had to actually make a hobby command.
Oh, jeez.
And it's been the same thing now where I got back into mini painting, and a friend who's in the chat um got me into Warhammer because I talked about Warhammer a lot and stuff like
Oh.
that. And people are coming, well, if you had an airbrush, you could. And I was like, can I get through the first set? Let me build this first set.
Yeah.
I don't know the rules. I'm still putting together the minis. I need you all to relax.
Mhm. No, the thing about like you can open an Etsy shop or something. I talked about this on the writing show that I did with B Dave.
Yep.
That like one of the things when you tell people you're a writer, so a lot of times you get the response of like, "Well, would I have read anything you've written?" And
No.
it's such a weird thing. It's like maybe I could just do this.
So when people do that, I go, well, what have you written? What's your Amazon link?
But my favorite response was someone said that to me, and my boss at an old job was nearby, and she stopped the conversation she was having and turned to him and went, "That is the weirdest thing to say to someone. That's like someone saying, 'I play basketball,' and you go, 'What team do you play for?'" It's
Right?
yeah, it's so weird. So weird. But oh,
People are weird, as we know.
oh yeah. Absolutely. But get back to Rivals a little bit. Tell me about Celise.
So Celise is, well, initially she was a paladin, and then I picked up some blood hunter, wasn't feeling how it worked out. Because the things I could do as a blood hunter after I thought about it, because she was like kind of broken oath paladin slash blood hunter, and I took one level of barbarian
Oh wow.
because I'm one of those people, and this is just like my own weird thought process. I really hated the stereotypical way people play barbarians of like me dumb.
Mm. Oh yeah.
I'm going to smash everything. Her. And I was just like, oh my God, you can be smart and angry at the same time.
There's a shirt. You can be smart and angry at the same time.
Zero, get on it. Um, Zerjester, who's in the chat, makes great designs. And so I decided I at least would have one level of barbarian just so I could take rage.
Hmm.
But it would be the very calm, cool John Wick kind of rage.
Oh yeah.
And especially once I got Fenn, because tying back to Idle Champions, when I did the familiar for Take This, and we figured out a way for me to have a familiar in the game on the show, it was basically like, hey, so if you touch my direwolf puppy, I will end you. But it's the very quiet, it is the very, you're not talking, I'm in so much trouble right now kind of anger. Um, she went on the path of paladin when her wife was killed in front of her. And if there's one thing I could say I regret, is doing the kill your gaze trope for my character, which it wasn't intentional. It was just like, well, I'm playing her as older. I don't want to do like the whole I went off to adventure because I was young. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do that. But upon further reflection, a few seasons in, I'm like, ooh, well, it's out there now. I can't change it. Um, but that is basically, she became a paladin partially out of spite, mostly out of revenge. So much like me and everything I do. And so, she left Tarami, and we started level 5, and I think we started with the Rivals already being a group. So if we ever do anything else, once we get to this level 20 season and
Mm-hmm.
get through it, is kind of that initial backstory before you were ever part of the Rivals. But she's a paladin. She thought she was doing good, and but I like to make her morally gray. And it's funny because a meeting I had earlier was talking about Dragon Age and how much I love the series. I thought of her more as a Grey Warden of doing
Oh,
right. So doing the right thing, but very willing to do the morally gray, not quite above
yeah.
level thing. Because again, up until 5th edition, paladins had to be lawful good.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's sort of lawful, but should someone, I don't know, need their arm broken or convincing, because I love doing the intimidation
Yeah.
um with her, because everyone's like, well, she's a paladin. I'm like, yes. And she has tears anger with her right now. Um, but also the conversation that she had with Brian as Tyr, because she does a dishonorable thing, and that's how she loses touch with Tyr. And that's when I switched to Blood Hunter for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So she had her favorite enemy, Zaraj, and she killed him, which was her plan all along, her goal, because we had that because Carlos is brilliant. And Zaraj, the one that we meet early on, I think in season 1, and is doing the training montage with everything, and he teaches us how to be better fighters and all this other stuff. He's the one that killed her wife.
Oh.
And she has that moment. It was either Carlos or Serena during one of the last seasons that they DM'd before they left the show. And in that moment of rage and realization, she kills him, but he's like weakened from a spell or sickness or something. And he can't really fight back, but she killed him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she loses her honor in the way that she takes her revenge. And that's when she breaks her oath and turns a little bit blood hunter. And Sharif did that in the one season he DM.
That's fantastic.
So I like being complicated.
One of the things that I've loved getting to talk with a lot of the folks from Rivals is the DM swapping, because, like, you were saying that there was a lot of things that Rivals was there to show how easy it is to get into D&D and whatnot, have a group of people playing D&D that others can relate to. But like the other thing that I love about it is that it's also showing like a healthy group of, like, people have to leave because life happened, but you've
Mhm.
brought someone in and the group is continuing, and that's how some things have to happen in D&D groups. But also having the DM switching and the trust with each other to carry on the story with a different person is absolutely fantastic to watch. I can't remember, which season did you DM?
I just DM'd season 14
That's
and I
right.
DM'd season 8.
That's right. I remember seeing you in the chat during Al Champions Presents going, I'm making notes.
Yep, because Eugenio was on right after we had the premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to B Dave about kind of ways we could link it in a way, because he
Mm-hmm.
was doing Spelljammery stuff and we were doing Spelljammer stuff. Um but and my friends who are in the chat, the people that actually know me, are gonna laugh but also be surprised. I finally sat back and allowed myself to think and say that our finale was some of the best DMing I'd ever done.
Oh, heck yeah.
Um, because and it wasn't planned out this way. So Jasmine Bular, that bronze girl,
Mm-hmm.
guested as our BBG, which turned out to be Laurel Silverhand.
Ooh.
And because I planted the seeds early, because basically, and I can say this now because the show's that season's over. I had wanted the Rivals to have the moral quandary of, are we the bad guys? Are we doing the right thing? Do we think because we're basically demigods at this point,
Mm-hmm.
are we doing the right thing? Are we actually helping Waterdeep? And that seed had been planted previously as well. Um, but also the questioning of, have we been doing the right thing? Have we done right by Waterdeep? And I started to think about this back when Eugenio and Brian DM'd 3 seasons prior, because they had the whole town hall meeting and people brought up their questions and concerns. And I was like, the Rivals really have never lost in a few seasons.
Mm.
They beat Gross, Sleaze kills Zaraj. We went to Avernus. We didn't run into Zariel, but like we have the group has not had major combat losses or any kind of losses. Like we had the doppelganger thing happening, and that's more an emotional betrayal and loss.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not been a combat situation or any kind of, are we doing the right thing? And that was a seed I kind of wanted to plant.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Laryl, who they thought up until then was on their side, came in and was like, no, this is for the betterment of Waterdeep. And Jasmine is like the best villain ever. But the reason I say that I think it's one of my best turns DMing is that one, we had moments where the players took agency and they figured things out, and I could just sit back.
Oh, I love
and
those.
and you watch them and you could just see those moments, and it got super emotional for all of us. And because we know that we're completing at least this round of our story with
Yeah.
next season, there's also the how do we push it in a way where ending is not truly an end and there's a door open for more adventure, more whatever, but also at that level, at that power level, you are not thinking about the consequences. The building joke building. How many people in Waterdeep that probably killed when that fight happened?
Mm-hmm.
The Strixhaven thing. Did they actually help? Did they do anything? These students are still being turned to fractal as far as they know.
Mm.
So I wanted to have that moral quandary there, but also the very real possibility of you may fight someone who could kill all of you. And Eugenio and Brian did that before for the PAX games. They're like, there is a chance your character could die.
Mm.
Are you okay with that? Based on whatever they were going to throw at us, which we found out later.
Oh, that was a conversation that happened before. Oh.
It was basically like, here's something, we're going to throw. It's going to be a hard fight. There is this possibility. How do you feel about it? And if you're not okay with it, we can work through it. But are you okay with that even being a possibility? And I was like, as long as I go out swinging.
Oh, that's fantastic. And again, that just is another good, healthy group thing is having that conversation, not just having that during the session zero of like, oh, characters could die and whatnot, but keeping that conversation going throughout the game. That's fantastic. One of the
Yeah.
one of the last things I wanted to ask though in the combination of Rivals and DMing is how was that, like was there anything difficult you weren't expecting when it came to taking the DM chair after so many other people had done so telling the story?
For me, a personal thing is keeping it all straight because like I said, I have a terrible memory.
That's fair.
And such a long running show, there's so many things where you can call back to, and that's what I love. Like when Masood was DMing,
Mm-hmm.
and he called back to like all of our personal stories, and uh, like Latia was able to on the fly call back to characters she created 2 seasons ago
Mm-hmm.
and bring up this stuff. But also the very real fact that people are watching you and you have a finite amount of time, and to tell a cohesive story in 2-hour chunks for 10 weeks in a row
Yeah.
is a challenge for anybody. But also so you don't lose the thread, so it makes sense. So your one part isn't so disjointed it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Because one person can keep like the thread going and doing whatever. And I did that like on other campaigns where I DM'd it and I was the only DM and we never swapped off. And in this case, again, shout out to B Dave, where he planted a seed on episode 1 of Black Dice that paid off literally 30 episodes later, 33 episodes later. And it had been staring us all in the face the whole time in the key art. And I was like, I hate this.
That was my phone wallpaper for the entirety of Black Dice Society. And I remember ending that episode and going, no.
I see you, Dave. I see you. And also, and this is something that I think all of us can relate to that do this publicly.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of people watching you, and that, at least for me, mild concern about the whole you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the backseating, well, I would do it this way, or why aren't you doing it this way? And and learning to tune that out,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're not used to it, it can distract you, just like when you're streaming
Yeah.
and you look at chat, maybe chat's distracting. Although streaming a not TTRPG content is different because most people want interaction,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also that, I mean, there's no polite way to say it. I mean, I'm hoping I can say it without cussing too much, but the grognard mentality of you're doing it wrong if you're not adversarial with your players.
Yeah.
And actually, like I said, I went back and watched some of the other Idle Insights prior to today, and watching B Dave talk about that and the old ways as it was, and how it was very adversarial. It was,
Mm-hmm.
you were the DM, what you say goes. And I'm like, that's not fun. Why did we keep playing this game this way? Um, and you know, it's just that for me, it's just I get very anxious, and I don't know if people realize this. Being a public person, people think like, oh, well, you're on a camera, you're doing this. There's no way you're nervous. That is absolutely
Ow.
incorrect.
Yeah, no. Oh, jeez.
Um, and so like today, I was a ball of anxiety until we hit go live, and I'm like, hi,
Mm-hmm.
it's me, I'm here.
Yeah.
And it'll be the same thing in an hour when we go and unlock Fenn.
I hosted sketching hour yesterday because Lauren's out, and like I host shows all the time, but it's a show I don't normally host. I was a ball of anxiety all day before that, and I'd done it before. It's just, yeah, it there's always those nerves there.
It is. And also, and we've talked about this, and I've talked about it online and with friends who are in the chat, the parasocial part of it, where there's the people get way too attached to the characters you play,
Mm-hmm.
or the other side where they don't realize that you're an actual human being,
Mm-hmm.
and they say things and do things without realizing that there is a human on the other side of this character that they care about or like.
Yeah.
Um, Perfect example, B Dave shared my Fenn's coming to the game on January 11th tweet, and someone who's clearly a fan of Black Dice decided that was the moment to be mad about how it ended in Brother Uriah.
Mm.
And it's like, hello, could you not? And Dave actually did reply with the let people enjoy things gift, which I love him for. Um, but it's this idea that you're a creator. They see you as a machine that outputs things.
Yeah.
And also just not understanding that much as we didn't want it to, Black Dice ended.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that it wasn't, it's, I'm stumbling over this because there's a good way to say this and I'm stumbling over it, but that people need to understand that we do this just because we love it.
Yeah.
But these are also characters. And I feel like people who also play TTRPG should understand this more. You often put yourself in the characters you play, whether you intend to or not. And depending on how the game goes, you learn things about yourself along the way, and it becomes deeply, deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, like with Celise and with Fenn and a few other characters I played, the character is some facet of you.
Yeah.
And when people forget that, one, that you also know your character, because we've seen people saying that you're playing this wrong. It's like, excuse? I beg your pardon?
It's an interesting crossover of things because you'll have like writers, they write a bunch of characters and everything like that, and they may not get attached to
Mm-hmm.
all of them. You have actors who play characters that other people write, and they might not get attached to them in that way, but in TTRPG space you are creating and playing that same person. You're having both forms of that. And so yeah, I do think it's very different from someone saying, oh, I hate that character in Game of Thrones, to say
Right.
like, oh, I hate that character from Critical Role or something like that. It's like, that's someone like that's them making it and playing it and putting their heart and soul into it. That's
Yeah, and part of it is just the whole creative, not creative mindset, but the idea, and I know we've talked about this more in person, but this accessibility to people that did not exist
Oh yeah.
10, 20, 30 years ago. Um, this idea that just because you can interact with someone, A, you should, or B, they don't think about how that interaction could make someone feel
Mm-hmm.
because you're not real to them. Jenny D mentioned this on Twitter the other day, where people will say terrible, mean things about her, tag her, and then be surprised when she responds.
I don't understand that at all. When people tag, it's so weird. Yeah.
Because it goes to they don't think that we're real people, and that will never, because she often gets the, I never thought you'd see this. How would you see this? You tagged me, you replied to something I wrote.
Yeah.
I do. Because I feel like people don't realize, or they have this weird idea that at a certain level, whatever that is, that you no longer maybe manage your own social media, that you post and run away,
Yeah.
that eventually, if you say something weird or off the cuff or not nice, that person will see it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to start winding things down because we get another show coming up, but I did want to get this listener, or I said listener question again. This Twitch chat question from Casters335. Yep.
Podcast brain.
Podcast brain. If Fenn owns any dice, what colors does she prefer?
Fenn would probably have black and red, silver and purple, and all like a dark gray, kind of like a they'd be fragile but hematite, but she could have gray, maybe with purple numbers. They'd be so fragile, but they'd be like her prized possession.
I like those answers. That was, I was not expecting them that fast, but you had options there.
So Trevor, I'm staring. I've got the Dark Lord dice that they did for us in hand, literally. Because I needed something to fidget with. But I am staring at about 8 sets of dice on my desk right now. So
I love it. That's fantastic.
and I've got a purple set with silver ink, literally like in reach. So I was like, well, Fenn's colors are kind of gray, purple, and black. So
it's great. Well, Tanya,
I feel like we had one more other question. Am I wrong?
Not that I saw, but also, again, like I said, we gotta get going because we gotta set up that next show.
Oh yeah.
But Tanya, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today. This was an absolute blast.
Anytime. I enjoy chatting with you, and hopefully at some point I'll get to see you again this year.
Right? Who knows? In person? What? But if people want to find you and what you're doing on the interwebs, where could they do so?
Everything is under Cipher of Tears, CYPHER, CYPHEROFTYR. I didn't think about how to spell my own username. Oh my god. And in an hour, we're going to be on my channel, unlocking Fenn. I say unlocking. She's already unlocked, but we're going to show off all her gear, talk about that. And then Friday, I'm going to be on Paint and Slay with V.
Heck yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Yeah, and if you want to check out Tanya's stream, you can actually hang out through the next show, which is Developer Insights, and at the end of that, we're going to raid Tanya's channel there, so you can just sit tight and enjoy some Fenn in Idle Champions and learn more about her.
All right.
All right, but that is gonna do it for this week's episode of Idle Insights. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Bye, y'all.